to my channel, the Sean Ferrell podcast. I am Sean Ferrell. God is great all the time. All the time, God is great. And let's not waste no time, shall we? Mental health is important among men, women, children, young and old, professional athletes. But as rarely as we talk about mental health concerning just regular people and famous people, not much around mental health is discussed around law enforcement. And mental health is real, just not among regular people. No. Law enforcement, their mental health matters too, okay? And I just want to say shout out to the MPD, Shelby County Sheriffs, Collierville, Arlington, Germantown, Bartlett, police departments. Just going to go down this list. And this list is probably no different, not much different from anybody else. Man, woman, child, withdrawing from other officers, feeling sad and hopeless for more than a few days, lack of energy, enthusiasm, motivation, trouble concentrating, reckless drinking of alcohol, trouble making decisions, being restless, agitated, and irritable, weight gain or weight loss out of the norm, sleeping more than usual, sometimes sleeping all day, trouble with memory, feeling bad about yourself or feeling guilty that lasts for more than a few days, anger and rage over something trivial. Hope I said that right. Feeling that you can't overcome difficulties in your life, trouble functioning in your personal life, discipline issues, divorce, loss of immediate family member, talks openly about suicide, taking unnecessary risks, and the number one thing of police officer suicide or law enforcement suicide is depression. Okay? And I talked about untreated depression last week or a few weeks ago. How untreated depression is the number one cause of suicide. With law enforcement, it's no different. In 2008, there were 141 law enforcement suicides. 2009, there were 143. And in 2012, it was 126. And there was a study done by O'Hara, Violante, Levinson, and Clark. Hope I said that right. In 2013, that the average age of an officer in 2012 was 42 years old at the time of the suicide. The average time on job as a in law enforcement at the time of suicide was 16 years of service. 91% of suicides were by male officers. Let me say that again. 91% of suicides were by male officers. Just think about that for a second. 91%. Age in which law enforcement or police officers were at most risk were ages 40 through 44. Time of the job when law enforcement are most at risks was 15 and 19 years of service. 63% of law enforcement suicide victims were single. 11% of police victims were military vets. Firearms were used in a staggering 91.5% of police suicides, and 83% of law enforcement suicides. Personal problems are prevalent prior to the suicide. So maybe his wife made him sleep on the couch, or her husband did something that put her in a bad mood. So, but yeah. 11% of police officers ending their life by suicide had legal problems pending. California and New York had the highest rated law enforcement suicides. So the warning signs you should look out for, it's really no different than among the common person who is thinking about suicide. The officer is talking about suicide or death, or even glorifying death. Officer is giving direct verbal clues such as, "I wish I were dead," "I'm going to end it all." Officer is giving less verbal clues such as, "What's the point of living? Soon you won't have to worry about me, and who cares if I'm dead anyway." The officer is now self-isolating from family and friends. Is now expressing the belief that life is meaningless or hopeless. The law enforcement officer starts giving away prized possessions. The officer is exhibiting a sudden and unexplained improvement in mood after being depressed or withdrawn. This is the most dangerous sign among regular people who think about suicide, are contemplating suicide, and probably are likely going to commit suicide, because they show a sudden improvement in their mood. So they're talking about suicide, they're down all the time, then all of a sudden, boom, they're all of a sudden happy. That's the most dangerous sign right there, because the officer has come to terms with his or her death and is relieved that the end is near. Officers neglecting his or her hygiene. The officer is annoyed that they are going to do something that will ruin his or her career, but they don't care. They openly discuss she feels out of control. They display behavior changes that include appearing hostile, blaming, argue, insubordinate, or they appear passive, defeated, and hopeless. The law enforcement officer develops a morbid interest in suicide or homicide. Indicates that she is overwhelmed and cannot find solutions to his or her problems. Ask another officer to keep her weapon. Acting out of character by inappropriately using or displaying his or her weapon unnecessarily. Exhibits reckless behavior by taking unnecessary risks on the job and or in his or her personal lives. Acts like he or she has a sudden death wish. Carries weapon in a reckless, unsafe manner. Exhibits deteriorating job performance. Issues with alcohol or drugs. And there are some websites that you can go to for the law enforcement, depression. There's a website called badgeoflife.org. Badgeoflife.org. Or you can go to suicide.org. or you can just Google police suicide prevention awareness. Police suicide prevention awareness. And law enforcement deals with stuff that we as common people don't have to deal with every day. So all this stuff I just rattled off, they probably deal with every day. Depression, thoughts of suicide, stress, So, yeah, just want to bring some attention to it. Mental health matters for everybody. That includes law enforcement as well. All right. That's all I wanted to say. I am out of here. My name is Sean Ferrell. You've been watching the Sean Ferrell podcast. Peace out.